think I'm recording. Today, I want to just take a quick ride before it rains. I want to talk about Victory motorcycles. In case you haven't heard, there's Polaris, the parent company, is shutting down Victory. So Victory is no more. Some people said they saw it coming. I never saw it coming when they introduced the Octane. I thought, wow, that bike could really help them. But, you know, I'm not a marketing expert or anything. Just give you a brief history on Polaris. It was started in 1997, so just about made it 20 years. And when they first came out, oh, look, a Hayabusa. When they first came out, I think they started out as a 1998 year, and they started out with the V92C. It's a 1500, a little over 1500 cc bike. It was like the second largest engine at that time on a motorcycle, and it was, I mean, they were designed, their lineup was designed to directly compete with Harley Davidson. So, you know, for a startup company, they didn't do too bad. They were profitable most of the years that, I believe they were profitable most of the years that they were in business. The last 5 years, 3 of those 5 years, they didn't make money. I think their best year, I think, might have been 2008, but I think the whole cruiser market was doing pretty good. I think they did like 72,000 units plus that year. And I'm kind of sad to see them go. Polaris also bought up Indian. I think that was in 2011. So that, you know, Polaris had 2 motorcycle companies, and I think the Indian is doing pretty good. So, anyways, it's sad to see them go. I mean, they had some, I tell you, some of their bikes were pretty sharp. A lot of times, if you watch like a review or look through them in a magazine or whatever on paper, it never did justice for how beautiful those bikes are. And their engines, for the most part, had more power than the Harley Davidson competition. They didn't quite have the Harley sound, but their sound wasn't too bad. They sound pretty good, actually. And man, they had some pretty nice bikes. The Vegas, a buddy of mine, Sean, he just bought one. He's kind of freaking out a little bit because they just went out of business. But the Vegas, the Gunner was sharp. The Hammer, They had the Vision touring bikes, which I think, I mean, they're unique. If you don't want to have an average kind of Harley Davidson or whatever touring bike, if you can call Harley Davidson average. But came as a surprise to me, and supposedly they're going to make parts for the next 10 years for it. And Polaris, you know, the parent company, is definitely still around. So, and they still have Indian. In fact, if you guys didn't know, the Octane and the Indian are pretty much, they share the same platform. The engine in the Octane was a little bit bigger and more powerful. And then, you know, the Indian Scout, they have the 60, the Indian Scout 60, and the regular Indian, which is actually the bigger one. But I mean, I remember when I read about the Octane and it's got more power, more torque, I was thinking, man, I wish they would have put that into the Scout. Yeah, I think the Octane was cheaper than the Scout, and it didn't come with ABS even as an option. Well, hopefully they'll develop the Scout a little bit more. And as you guys know, the V-Rod now is no longer going to be produced, because you'd be surprised, people, but those two, the Scout, Octane, and V-Rod, are pretty similar in displacement. The Octane and the Scout a little bit down on power versus this one, but I don't see why they can't make more power on that bike. It's almost the same setup as this. In fact, the Octane is a 1200, this is a 1250, with the same cylinder layout. They look similar if you take a look at the engines. But anyways, it's just sad to see him go. They had a pretty good run. I think, really, to be honest with you, the big thing that changed the whole aspect was when Polaris bought Indian. They kind of like overextended themselves. I mean, they're if they have two bikes that are very, very similar, they try to style the Octane quite differently. You know, the Scout has a retro look to it, where the Octane has a different kind of look to it, like a more modern look, or more, I don't know. To me, it looks like almost like a standard slash cruiser, where they mix both aspects together, which I wasn't really crazy about, but probably more people like that. But I like the Scout's retro look. I thought that's pretty cool. So, Victory went out of business. Guess who's back in business again, people? Eric Buell Racing, yet again. I mean, I hope he succeeds. I really hope so. I don't know what, I think it's pretty small production runs he's running, but Victory's going out and Eric Buell's back in. Maybe that'll compensate for it. Have to wait and see.